Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, and good afternoon to everyone there. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of Lenovo's findings on the state of hybrid and digital work. I don't think there's a better time to discuss these topics than right now as we move into the next normal. I'm sure all of us have had our own journey in working from home or anywhere since the global pandemic started. I'd like to share insights from Lenovo's own research, as well as examples of the technologies we're working on to better enable hybrid work. But first, here's a video to introduce Lenovo and the many technologies we work on. It celebrates Lenovo's support of the IT professionals that helped us during the pandemic.
She's never been to medical school, but she's critical to fighting cancer.
Really?
Really.
That's cool.
And this IT pro, he's never watered a plant. But he's critical to helping this farmer grow these huge things.
And all this!
Who's critical to education? It's not just Miss Jin.
Hey, I love Miss Jin.
Yeah, she's great, but this guy is critical too. You see, there's an army of people rewriting what's possible. You may not know their names, but they're solving some of our biggest challenges. They're the critical unknowns.
Well, until now.
And our mission is to power theirs with a range of device-to-data center solutions. Lenovo, smarter technology for all.
Great. So hopefully that did two things. One, introduced you to some of the technologies that we have at Lenovo, but also to applaud the work that I'm sure many of you did to keep hospitals, schools, and businesses working during this difficult time the last couple of years in the pandemic. As you see from the video, we think a lot about IT professionals and commercial users. We ship a commercial device about every 4 seconds, so we know a bit about helping our commercial customers deploy IT solutions. But innovation often comes from a disruption like this. 70% of IT decision makers said the pandemic was an opportunity to completely rethink their long-term strategy. And frankly, I'm not sure what the other 30% were thinking about, because I think everybody should be thinking about their strategy and many of the things that Oliver already pointed out in his last pitch. Clearly, the majority of our customers, both ours and I know Matrix42's as well, are deploying new technologies and digitally transforming their businesses. To better understand our customers, we surveyed 8,500 IT decision makers and end users worldwide concerning the future of work and digital transformation. The good news is, although the global pandemic forced remote work on an unprepared world, for the most part, you all responded very well. You can see the statistics in the slide, but in general, end users and IT decision makers report higher job satisfaction and productivity with this new work environment. The conclusion is clear: hybrid work is here to stay. But I don't want to give the impression the transition to hybrid work was easy just because it's been possible. End users had some struggles. The key problems were connectivity, and about half had IT support issues. For IT decision makers, data security was understandably the #1 concern, especially with a distributed workforce they suddenly had to manage. The second priority was endpoint control for the same reasons. Most of the time, as Oliver pointed out, this meant adopting cloud-based solutions to manage the distributed workforce. And I think it is also clear that cloud-based security and endpoint control solutions are also here to stay. So now let's shift the discussion to what we at Lenovo are doing about these opportunities and challenges. Our slogan, Smarter Technology for All, is really about helping to solve for some of these customer pain points. What became clear during the pandemic was that the death of the PC has been greatly exaggerated. I don't know about you, but doing 10 hours of Zoom calls a day on a phone is awfully challenging, and at a minimum, your arm gets awfully tired. We also recognize, though, that the PC had improvements to make to its design. Customers need to be always on and always connected. We just announced a commercial ARM-based PC with 5G and 28 hours battery life as a good example of responding to these challenges, making sure that our customers can work from anywhere and always be connected. Audio and visual became very important in a hybrid environment. So we added AI-driven solutions to improve video and sound. And of course, security. We believe security has to be built in with our hardware supply chain and firmware, Plus, we offer a comprehensive set of OS solutions and endpoint security. Sorry, I think I'm behind a slide. Sorry about that. To manage and secure the flexible workforce of the future, many of our customers are looking for a different IT model. One option is device as a service that allows complete lifecycle management and our managed services for both the hardware and software. 63% of our customers surveyed are interested in this kind of IT model because it frees up valuable time and resources for more strategic projects. With Lenovo Device as a Service solutions, you get one focus of accountability to manage your environment with one predictable monthly invoice. But also, we won't all be remote all the time. Employers will also have to provide the technology that meets workers' rising expectations inside the office. We found in our survey that younger employees prefer to work in the office at least part of the time. These workers are just starting their careers and are looking for more direct contact with colleagues for networking and mentoring opportunities. So the office isn't going away, it is changing. It is evolving into a place where one can connect and collaborate. Lenovo offers a broad portfolio to make office spaces smarter, including solutions designed specifically for Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, etc., large format displays for hybrid collaboration or even to be used in education spaces. These are purpose-built for full collaboration and productivity in hybrid environments with people both in person and remote, which is often the most difficult environment of all to manage. But I want to think also about tomorrow's workforce. There's a major generational shift occurring now and has big implications on the technology workers will use. 10,000 baby boomers are prepared to exit the workforce every day. By 2030, demand for skilled workers will outstrip supply, resulting in up to 85 million people with talent shortages, especially in some of the trades and blue-collar roles that the baby boomers have 20, 30, 40 years of experience in knowing how to fix things. Digital native millennials and Gen Z generations will account for about 60% of the workforce in less than 10 years. They were born in the information age. No generation has been better prepared to use smart devices to improve productivity. In fact, they have very high expectations for technology. 1 in 6 Gen Z and millennial employees have quit their jobs because employees didn't provide proper technology. So speaking of how the next technology, let me make sure the slides are kept up here. So speaking of how the next generation will experience computing and work, let's talk about the enterprise metaverse. There's been a lot of media coverage about the metaverse. These are virtual platforms where work, entertainment, and education is enhanced by spatial computing. Much as the PC was the tool for the internet age and the smartphone was the interface for Web 2.0, AR and VR will be the on-ramp for the metaverse. Think about this. With all the technical advances that we've had and we've been a part of, we fundamentally have been using 2D written text and picture for communication for 400 years since Gutenberg invented the printing press there in Germany in the 1600s. No one knows where the metaverse will go, but the vision is that we'll now have immersive 3D worlds at our disposal, enabled by technologies like AR and VR. This allows new ways of creating and interacting with technology and each other that can add and will extend beyond our traditional text or 2D flat squares we're so used to today. In the future, workforces will be nearly unconstrained by time and space. The ability to create and work in 3D environments will accelerate collaboration and amplify productivity. Today, enabling workers equipped with AR glasses can reduce error rates in industrial and manufacturing use cases down to almost zero, using workflow management, remote assistant apps, in which experts can virtually work side by side with the worker. Lenovo is working with customers like Micron, which is deploying this technology to enhance worker productivity in chip fabs around the world. While AR and VR tend to get lumped together, they are really very different use cases. In the enterprise, VR is primarily a training tool. Because of its immersive nature, VR training is up to 76% more effective than classroom or traditional e-training, especially if you're teaching complex or soft skills. Again, right now, Lenovo and its partners are working with customers like Saint-Gobain to train its employees on safety compliance, as well as other knowledge and skills training. And of course, as Oliver said, all of this new technology has to come with the same level of provisioning, management, and especially security we have in the PC. This is where our partnership with Matrix42 is targeted. Enterprise customers run a wide variety of devices and systems to support numerous functions: Windows, Chrome, Android, iOS platforms. In many cases, they have to run multiple consoles to run end-to-end management of their device fleet. And they're looking for better options to manage and secure their digital workspaces. As we discuss the challenges they face, the Lenovo and Matrix42 story is resonating with our customers because they're looking to simplify the way they procure, deliver, and maintain IT assets to manage their expanding digital workspaces. We think there'll be many opportunities like this in the future because, in fact, our customers are deploying increasing amounts of smarter technology, and more of them will look to optimize this investment in digital workspaces. To conclude, let me emphasize that while COVID-19 has caused fundamental changes to work as we know it, there's general satisfaction with this new paradigm. Many of us have spent the last 2 years adapting to remote setups. Businesses are now navigating the transition to hybrid work arrangements as offices reopen, with employees splitting their time between on-site and at home. It's a trend that will continue, and employees are generally embracing this new normal. 77% of users were excited about new technologies, making it even easier for them to work from anywhere, with Generation Z and millennials most excited about these new technologies. As companies consider the best way to transition their workforce, whether it's remaining remote or returning to the office, or likely somewhere in between, smarter technology can play a crucial role. In fact, the last 2 years has showed us how much this is possible. Lenovo looks forward to continuing to innovate and create solutions for today's workers, and the opportunity to work with Matrix42 in delivering and managing those solutions. Thank you.
Much for your presentation and for joining us today at the Digital Workspace World. Now, you have recently partnered with Matrix. What led you to choose Matrix as a partner?
Well, I think we share a common vision. I think you saw, even though I hadn't seen Oliver's presentation before today, I think you saw a lot of common elements and a lot of common thinking there. We feel this role of providing simpler solutions to end users and IT decision makers, which we view both, and that's why we did the survey on both, is very important because you have to serve both of them. And I think we share this vision, right? Things like self-support and using technology in new and different ways, especially now with the remote workforce. You don't need a help desk. You can't really afford a help desk. You have people around the world you have to support. And the cloud-based solutions that Matrix42 has is perfect for that environment, and I think has the simplicity that our customers are looking for. Okay. And you combine that with our tremendous reach with devices and our knowledge of devices, I think it becomes an excellent marriage.
Right, and I'll put the same question to Oliver. What can your customers expect from the partnership with Lenovo?
Yeah, I mean, when Jon and I synced up many months ago, actually, we are the kind of architects of this partnership. And it was great to talk to Jon because we had the same kind of view, but he just came from a different angle, more from the device and hardware side, and and we as Matrix42 more from the software side. So look, I mean, if I look at modern workspaces and modern ways how work gets done, you need both, right? You need the hardware side of things, and you need management and security, and whether management can be things like application deployment and operating system deployment, but also self-service and the whole process automation around it, this notion of service management. And we also share the same view that more and more customers are interested in a kind of managed service or a combined service of hardware and software as a kind of subscription. In our market, this is called device as a service, for instance. We see there's a big opportunity together, Lenovo and Matrix42. Yeah. And by the way, I mean, Jon is a great guy. That's the reason why this partnership makes also sense.
Thanks, Oliver. Likewise.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jon mentioned device as a service, and companies and IT departments are more attracted to these new consumption models. Can you tell us what that means for you?
Yeah, it's really about, on the one side, commercially, right? That that you can combine when you have a hardware refresh or you want to invest in new devices like the VR, AR devices that are coming to market. Then there's on the one side the commercial element. I mean, that I want to have comparable to a smartphone. Today I buy a smartphone and somehow I want to get obviously a telco contract next to it, or sometimes in business environments, obviously also managed service. We see this at a broader scale going forward, so commercially. But also the technical integration is super important, right? That we provide better management and security for Lenovo devices going forward. And this has done is a big benefit for Lenovo customers, but also for Matrix42 customers, obviously.
Okay. Jon, you say that there is a generational shift with millennials choosing who they're going to work for, also depending on the kind of technology that they'll be working with. So with AR and VR headsets, how do they add to the employee experience?
When we first started talking about AR and VR, we started listing out, kind of the applications and different vertical markets that we thought this would work in. And pretty soon I flipped it around and said, well, I think we need to start listing those that don't apply because it applies virtually everywhere. I think you'll see it first and where we're deploying it today, as I talked about, in sort of that where 3D and immersive technologies really matter and where we see that as complex equipment and machinery today. So you can envision, Gen Z being a maintenance technician at a large equipment manufacturer or like in Micron's case, a semiconductor fab, which has some of the most complicated equipment in the world. And they can hit the ground running, right? And with a lot less training than maybe traditionally they've had to have or on-the-job experience, they now can go out there, maintain equipment, fix equipment, and they always have, someone kind of virtually sitting on their shoulder that might have years more experience that's giving them that real world on-the-job training that I think is very difficult to replicate in today's normal world because, maybe they've had to travel to Malaysia to fix that tool. Traditionally they'd be out there on their own, right? And so they can really get started early. And I think that's what younger people expect from technology, right? They don't read manuals anymore. They watch a YouTube video. I think this fits, kind of takes that to the next level and now being able to do complex 3D equipment, augmenting the physical world around you. And it fits perfectly with that generation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that seems like a good advantage also for the older generation to be able to pass on their knowledge. But
Exactly.
in big operations and factories, does the AR, VR technology work well, or do you have to actually go there physically?
Well, someone has to be there, right? I mean, the device can't fix the tool for you, right? So there has to be someone there physically fixing the device. But the ability now to have so much more information, advice at your disposal, you can virtually call up the schematics. You can put a model in 3D from a CAD/CAM model, and you've got that voice of maybe the more experienced baby boomer sitting back in his house advising you. And so that's the combination that we see as resonating first in this technology. Now it's going to go many more places from there. You can take virtual tours. You can virtually look at your next house from an architect. I mean, the use cases are almost unlimited, but where we're seeing it first with the highest business case, and really it became prevalent in COVID where maybe, the world's leading expert couldn't fly to Malaysia and he had to have someone local kind of helping them and be their hands and arms with some of the intelligence coming from afar. That's what works very well today.
Okay, thanks, Jon. Oliver, so it seems that companies are making the transition to hybrid work quite well. What's next in the hybrid work trend and the IT resources needed for that?
Yeah, I think we touched on many of those already. I mean, things like the Metaverse, right, in hybrid work, it's still early stages, but we believe that there's a big opportunity for organizations going forward, and also then for us, because again, also the Metaverse, the devices, but also the access to the environment needs, again, process automation, management, and security. So I always say, I mean, the device and the environment might change, but the business challenge remains the same. It's how do I provide secure access to applications, data, devices, and services, and at the same time, how I manage the process and the costs of it. So that's why our vision, again, I repeat it, is timeless and bold, because we want to simplify and secure digital work, whether it's in the physical world, the virtual world, or then in the metaverse. So I think that's important. And number two, I can again mention AI ops and artificial intelligence as an important element.
Jon, would you like to add to that? Anything else that you'd like to add about IT resources to support hybrid work?
Well, as usual, we're pretty well in sync on this. I think this notion of all of these smart devices being managed in a way, a common way, with the traditional devices is key. We frankly have heard stories about especially more consumer-oriented devices where a lot of the metaverse discussion takes place today, right? So a lot of that is consumer-oriented, but businesses that have tried to deploy some of those devices, there was no device management. There just didn't really think about it. I don't want to think too much about the security ramifications of some of that. So as these devices, including Edge or AR, VR, all of these things, even your phones, start to proliferate, and they will be everywhere. They'll be under your desk, they'll be behind the wall. Really what we've learned from traditional IT environments have to play in those spaces. And that, I think, was both what Lenovo Matrix42 is doing, taking all that experience from the traditional IT world and extending it now to new, innovative, smarter technology spaces.
Okay. Jon, what would you say to encourage companies to create a culture of transformation, to be future-proof?
Well, it's hard. It's hard, and that's been kind of my job in Lenovo, and so I know it's hard. But you have to have both, I think, some tops-down push and strategy that says this is something we're going to do, and we're going to stay ahead of the curve. And that's why I have kind of both roles, right? The strategy, it gets executed through some of these emerging businesses. And the ROI might be tough, and I think companies have to get used to that. I was kind of joking about the 30% that didn't see the pandemic as a transformation event, because they probably won't last if you're not thinking about certainly things like hybrid and remote work, but even more so into some of these new technologies of what should be in the office when you come back. Things like the AR, VR we talked about. Edge computing is going to be right there as another topic that we spend a lot of time on, and pervasive computing. I think everybody has to recognize, and you can read a zillion consulting reports about this. If you're not thinking about those things today, at least thinking about them, if not acting on them, you're likely to get left behind, because tomorrow's business models, tomorrow's efficient enterprises are going to be adopting these technologies. Okay.
What do you find most exciting about the future of IT, Jon?
Well, I think it's that, I believe what I said, right? You think about with all the technological advances, I'm still, here with you. I wish I could be there in person, but here with you on this 2D black square. Yeah. And whether it's been reading a book, or we're looking at pictures in a book, or being in an electronic device, fundamentally that hasn't changed that much. And this metaverse, which admittedly is fuzzy and opaque and probably hyped up a little bit, but it is coming. And what we can invent with that, and with all the IT folks probably in the audience, what they can create with that, both for their customers and their business model, as well as internally to make their employees more productive, that's pretty exciting. And I think we're kind of on the edge, beginning edge of this new age that we can be part of and help create.
Great. What about you, Oliver? What are you most excited about in the future of IT?
I think what keeps me awake at night is how do you innovate like a startup but still deliver like an enterprise? So you need to think about what's next on the horizon. Obviously, that creates value for our customers. But I can only echo what Jon said. There's so much innovation going on. The interesting piece is to identify which ones are important for customers, but also for us as a vendor. And again, when it comes to bottom line, everything that makes work and life easier for the employees, and that's the reason why we are focusing so much on total experience, that is a good investment, When we look at IT operations and IT infrastructure management, we really want to make it easy and simple for customers, that they can take care more of their business and not, again, keeping the lights on. Every innovation that is related to that makes sense. Then again, I don't want to touch too much on the metaverse topic, but I see a lot of opportunity here on the horizon. And in a few years' time, this might become part of our work within an organization. And we need then to support that technology. But it will only be successful if it creates better productivity for users and employees.
Okay, exciting times ahead. Jon, thank you so much for joining the Digital Workspace World, and I wish you all the best for the partnership with Matrix42.